This is the moment American democracy didn't just blink. It turned off the lights and ran out the back door. If you are watching the C-SPAN feed from the House of Representatives right now, you aren't seeing a debate. You aren't seeing a vote. You are seeing an empty chamber, a discarded gavel, and a scene of absolute unmitigated chaos. At 10:42 a.m. this morning, Saturday, January 31st, 2026, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson did the unthinkable, facing a mutiny from his own party and a roaring demand for answers regarding the Greenland hoax and the Minneapolis murder. He didn't call for a vote. He didn't call for order. Why? Because he did the math. For the first time in the Trump presidency, the red wall in Congress has cracked. A coalition of moderate Republicans, terrified by the wipeout polls in Florida and the global boycott, had secretly joined with Democrats to force a vote on a resolution of inquiry. This resolution would have compelled the release of the unredacted Greenland emails and the full DHS logs regarding the shooting of nurse Sarah Jenkins. Johnson knew he didn't have the votes to stop it. He knew that if that resolution passed, the cover-up would end and the impeachment process would effectively begin. So he pulled the plug on the People's House. In this emergency deep dive, we are going to take you inside the room where the deal fell apart. We are going to name the Rebel 20, the Republicans who finally found their spine. We are going to explain the obscure parliamentary trick Johnson used to shut down the government's legislative branch. And we are going to show you why this act of desperation might be the spark that burns down the GOP majority for a generation. The Speaker has left the building. But the crisis is just getting started. To understand why Johnson ran, you have to understand who was chasing him. It wasn't just the Democrats, it was the Survival Caucus. These are the 20 Republicans who represent districts that Joe Biden won in 2020 or that are currently swinging hard to the left in the 2026 tracking polls. Representatives from New York, California, and the suburban Midwest. For the last week, they have been watching their political careers evaporate. They saw the Japan bond crash destroy their constituents' savings. They saw the Greenland scam rob their donors. They saw the nurse shooting radicalize their suburban voters. They went to Mike Johnson privately on Thursday night. According to sources who spoke to The Hill, the meeting was explosive. Representative Mike Lawler, RNY, reportedly slammed his hand on the Speaker's desk and said, "We are being slaughtered. The president is a liability. If you don't let us vote on the inquiry, we lose the House. Period." Johnson, acting on strict orders from the White House, refused. He quoted scripture. He told them to hold the line. He told them it was all deep state propaganda. But then came the J.D. Vance leak, when the vice president was caught on tape calling the administration a suicide pact. The dam broke. The Rebel 20 realized that if even the VP was jumping ship, they were being left to die. So they cut a deal with Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. They agreed to sign a discharge petition, a parliamentary maneuver that forces a bill to the floor even if the Speaker opposes it. They had the numbers. 218 signatures, all Democrats plus the 20 rebels. A majority of the House was ready to compel the White House to turn over the evidence. This morning, they walked onto the floor, ready to execute the maneuver. Johnson saw them coming. He saw the list in their hands, and he panicked. What Mike Johnson did next was technically legal, but politically suicidal. Under House Rule 1, Clause 12, the Speaker has the authority to declare an emergency recess if there is a threat to the safety or order of the House. Usually this is used for bomb threats, medical emergencies, or 9/11 scenarios. Johnson used it to avoid a vote. At 10:40 a.m., Representative Tony Gonzalez, RTX, one of the leaders of the rebellion, stood up to be recognized. He was holding the discharge petition. Johnson refused to look at him. The C-SPAN cameras caught Johnson's eyes darting around the room. He looked like a trapped animal. He turned to the parliamentarian, whispered something, and then slammed the gavel with a force that echoed through the mic. The chair declares the House in recess, subject to the call of the chair due to a breakdown in decorum. There was no breakdown in decorum. The room was silent. He manufactured a crisis to justify a shutdown. As he walked off the podium, the room exploded. Democratic Whip Catherine Clark shouted, "You are obstructing justice." But it was the Republicans who were the loudest. Rep. Thomas Massey, RKY, a libertarian who hates executive overreach, was heard yelling, "You can't suspend the Constitution because you're scared of a vote, Mike. Come back here." By adjourning subject to the call of the chair, Johnson effectively sent everyone home indefinitely. He took the keys to the House and put them in his pocket. The House cannot meet, cannot vote, and cannot issue subpoenas until he decides to come back. He bought Trump time, but he bought it at the cost of the institution. Why would Johnson do this? Why would he destroy his own speakership to protect the president? Sources in the Speaker's office tell us that Johnson received a phone call at 10:30 a.m., 10 minutes before the recess. The caller, Donald Trump. The president, already furious about the Vance betrayal and the Greenland hoax exposure, reportedly gave Johnson an ultimatum. According to a staffer who overheard the call and spoke to Axios, "If you let that vote happen, I will destroy you. I will tweet that you are a weak rhino. I will primary you in Louisiana. I will ruin your life. Shut it down. Use the rule. Do it now." We have to remember who Mike Johnson is. He is a true believer. He believes his speakership is divinely ordained, but he also knows that his power comes entirely from Trump's base. If Trump turns on him, he is a backbencher again, so he chose the king over the kingdom. But the White House strategy here is flawed. By shutting down the House, they have drawn massive attention to the very thing they wanted to hide. If they had just let the vote fail or let the inquiry drag on, it might have been boring news. By fleeing the chamber, it looks like guilt. It looks like a confession. The headline isn't House Debates Inquiry. The headline is Speaker Flees to Protect Trump. Here is where it gets surreal. The House is technically in recess. The cameras are supposed to be off. But C-SPAN, in a rare act of defiance, kept the cameras rolling. They argued that the public interest outweighed the House rules. Since Johnson left, the Democrats and the rebel Republicans have stayed in the chamber. They are holding a shadow session. Hakeem Jeffries is currently standing in the well of the House without a microphone, shouting to the press gallery, reading the Greenland emails into the public record. He is reading the emails where Trump's advisors joke about selling ice to the Eskimos. He is reading the logs of the kill order for Sarah Jenkins. Because the House is not in session, he cannot be ruled out of order. He has total freedom of speech. And the networks, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox, are carrying it live. The visual is striking. An empty speaker's chair, a unified opposition reading the evidence of crimes. It looks like a government in exile within its own capital. Representative Jamie Raskin took the floor a moment ago and said, "The speaker has fled. The president is hiding. The vice president is plotting. We are the only functioning branch of government left. If the speaker won't call us back, we will call ourselves back." Legal scholars are melting down. Does the speaker have the right to shut down the House to prevent a majority from acting? Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution says, "Neither House during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days." Johnson is testing this limit. If he keeps the House closed past Tuesday, he is violating the Constitution. The Senate, which is still in session, could theoretically pass a resolution demanding the House return. Or the rebel Republicans could join with Democrats to elect a speaker pro tempore to reopen the House. This is the nuclear scenario. If the 20 Republicans sign a petition to vacate the chair, fire Johnson, they can force a vote the moment the House comes back. Johnson knows this. That's why he can never come back. As long as he stays away, he stays speaker. It is a standoff, a siege of the Capitol building, not by protesters, but by parliamentary procedure. We talked about the Japan crash all week. This adds fuel to the fire. Markets hate uncertainty, but they hate government shutdowns even more. With the House closed, no budget bills can pass. No debt ceiling adjustments can be made. We are weeks away from a spending deadline. If the House is closed, the U.S. government shuts down by default. The algo traders see this. The Dow is down another 600 points today. The 10-year Treasury yield just spiked to 5.2%. The global financial system is looking at Washington and seeing a failed state. Foreign adversaries are watching too. China just announced live fire exercises around Taiwan. They know the U.S. government is paralyzed. Johnson's attempt to save Trump has incapacitated the U.S. response to global threats. The revolt isn't staying in D.C. Republican governors, who have to balance budgets and deal with the nurse shooting riots, are turning. Governor Kemp of Georgia and Governor Youngkin of Virginia issued a joint statement an hour ago. The people's business must continue. We call on Speaker Johnson to reopen the House immediately. Obstruction is not leadership. We cannot govern our states if Washington is closed for business. This is the DeSantis effect spreading. The governors know that if the national GOP is branded as the party of chaos, they will lose their own re-elections. They are distancing themselves from Washington. We are seeing the fragmentation of the Republican Party into federal MAGA, Trump, Johnson, and state realists, governors. Let's geek out on the rules for a second because this is how they beat him. A discharge petition requires 218 signatures. Once it has them, it sits on the calendar of motions for 7 legislative days. After that, any member can call it up for a vote. The Rebel 20 signed it yesterday. The clock started. Johnson adjourned to stop the clock. But here is the catch. The clock runs on calendar days, not legislative days, for certain provisions. He can't stop time. Next Tuesday, the petition becomes ripe. If he doesn't open the House, the Democrats can sue in federal court to force the doors open. We are heading for Doe versus Johnson, a Supreme Court case to decide if a speaker can lock the doors of democracy to save a president. And given the court's Catholic majority, who are furious about the church raid, Johnson might lose that case. Who are these Republicans? Representative Mike Lawler, NY, represents a Biden district. He needs to look moderate to survive. He is the face of the revolt. Representative Tony Gonzalez, TX, represents Uvalde. He hates the gun violence and the border chaos. He was horrified by the church raid in Dallas. Representative Nancy Mace, SC, a wild card. She smells blood and wants to be on the winning side. She wants to be the maverick. These aren't just never-Trumpers like Liz Cheney. These are survivalists. They stuck with Trump through the impeachments, but they won't stick with him through a Ponzi scheme and a murder. Their defection is the true indicator that the ship is sinking. As we go into the weekend, the image of the empty speaker's chair is the defining symbol of the Trump era's final days. The chair is empty because the leader is afraid of the truth. The chamber is silent because the debate has been censored, and the government is closed because one man's ego is too big to fail. Mike Johnson thinks he saved the president. In reality, he just signed the death warrant for his own majority. When you shut down the House to hide a murder cover-up, you aren't a speaker anymore. You are an accomplice. We will be live streaming the shadow session all day. Hakeem Jeffries says he has a witness coming to the floor at 2 p.m. Rumors say it might be the DHS whistleblower who leaked the video. If that happens, Johnson's gavel won't be enough to stop the noise. Subscribe, stay vigilant. The House is closed, but the eyes of the world are wide open. Keep an eye on Nancy Mace. She just tweeted, "I didn't come to Washington to hide under my desk. If Mike won't lead, I will make a motion to vacate." She is positioning herself to be the first female Republican speaker. She is using the chaos to climb the ladder. This internal ambition is what kills Johnson. He has to watch his back while protecting Trump's front. It is a two-front war he cannot win. The phone lines at the RNC are melting down. Major donors, the ones who were at the Ohio retreat with Vance, are pulling their pledges. We paid for a majority, not a circus. If the money stops, the ads stop. If the ads stop, the vulnerable Republicans lose. Money is the lifeblood of politics, and Johnson just clamped the artery. MAGA Mike tried to pull a magic trick. He tried to make the Congress disappear, but all he did was show the audience how the trick works. And the audience is furious. See you in the next video. The weekend is going to be long.